Hello, welcome to MCFC 9320 Group, and tonight I am absolutely delighted to welcome my all-time City hero, Mr. Paul Lake. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for
Oh,
the invitation.
yeah, you know my thoughts on you, buddy. You can have all the Agueros, the De Bruynes, the Silvers. It'll always be Lakey for me.
Very kind of you.
Yeah, and we've got some of the normal gang with us tonight as well, Anne Marie and John. Thanks for joining us, guys.
It's okay.
Well, what a fantastic start to the season.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
what more could we ask for?
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant.
Was you confident? Was you confident before the game today, Lakey?
You know something, Andy? I was. I wasn't too concerned about the Liverpool game, and I kind of got the impression from several quarters that it was more a case of minutes in legs, to be brutally honest, and minutes in legs together. So that extra time then to get the guys, working and to get Pep really focusing on the Premier League start, recognising that there are some elements to the Liverpool game which obviously needed to be ironed out, but in the scheme of things, and yet you, having watched Haaland play, obviously for his country and for all the teams that he's played for, and obviously more recently Dortmund, you know that we all know that we've got players, Ilkay, Kev, Phil, Cancelo, Rodri, the list goes on, of players that can find him and play to his strengths. So I always felt that there would be chances. And you know something, that was chances with West Ham sitting in.
Yeah.
And sitting in as, a blanket, solid, trying to cope with City. And despite that, City were able to get through on so many occasions. I particularly enjoyed watching Ilkay Gundogan finding space in the pockets. And that was really enjoyable to see.
Oh, absolutely. One of the notes I've made here, Paul, is our game management, especially. I felt we started off a little bit ropey, but and as you quite likely say, last week for me was more about time together and legs, but I thought we grew into the game today, and the way we retained the ball and stuff like that, West Ham were just chasing shadows, and in that heat as well today. When you're playing football, that takes it out of you more than anything when you're chasing a ball, especially with 80% possession.
Yeah, and also, I'm sure we all can appreciate this, is the fact that when you're having to defend against a side like City and you're having to do that, it's like that thankless task of having to close people down and it can be demoralising. Yeah. So you can switch off, then you're not on the half turn, you're not in the right position to receive the ball. And that domination isn't just in terms of the physical, it is the psychological. And you can't have wear teams down. I mean, Antonio looked like a second division footballer. He's a quality footballer, by the way.
He normally troubles us a lot when he plays against us.
Exactly. He was that. And, Bowen didn't get a look in, really. And these are top players. Rice does what Rice does well whenever he could, but he couldn't get on the ball.
No.
It was fascinating. Even seeing Kyle Walker stepping in, I still feel that Kyle, as good as he is, he doesn't look anywhere near as comfortable as Cancelo when he steps into that space. But having said that, I thought he did that quite well. But overall, our game management, as you say, out of possession, because of how hungry we were and how we hunted in packs, West Ham were not able to get on the ball and to try to build anything, even through Antonio. So all things considered, it was one of the most dominant displays that West Ham will have on their own turf. For years to come. I just thought we were superb today.
Yeah, I don't know if you, John or Anne Marie, saw the post match from David Moyes as well. He said that he's set up pretty much to do exactly the same, play exactly the same way against us today as he did from the penultimate game last season. He said the way City just actually changed it bamboozled them a little bit, but. Obviously, Haaland will get all the plaudits, and rightly so today. All of a sudden, he's gone from zero to hero in the space of a week with certain sections of the media, not with City fans, and he just needs to not swear on live TV, doesn't he? What's your thoughts today, John?
I thought we played an absolutely brilliant game, actually. The passing side of it was fantastic. It was a bit slow at times, but it's obviously the big first game of the season, and it's going to happen. One thing I did notice, though, is that the amount of players that Haaland draws to him, which give us so much space, because there seemed to be 5 around him whenever the ball got near their box, and they tried the best to actually contain him. And he did actually get into some good spaces. But when they played the high line, it's just something we've been crying out for all that time. That last man between the defenders and off.
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant.
Trademark Haaland goal, wasn't it, Anne-Marie?
It certainly was, and it was good to see the move he made for the penalty as well. I mean, it was a blatant penalty. There was no kind of debate in it. But I just thought, on the whole, you look at Rodri again. I thought he was brilliant today. I mean, Haaland will get all the plaudits because of the goals, but straight away he's taken the pressure off himself by doing that today. Yeah. So next week when we play, we get to see him ourselves live at Bournemouth. Again,
I can't honestly wait for that.
Me either.
Lakey, for me today, I'd say Haaland will quite rightly get the plaudits, but I thought Gundogan was brilliant today. I don't know what it is. He's a special player, Gundogan, and I'm so glad that we are retaining him.
Yeah, I totally agree. We know that he was Pep's first signing, and he has that special relationship with us. He was the kingpin on the last game of the season, wasn't he? But he's just so intelligent. And again, if you watch, when the game is tight, it's Ilkay or it's Kev that will just come into those wide pocket areas and just create that extra man where when they'll press as a 4, even as a 5, you'll still find that if it's John, if it's Emerick, if it's Diaz, or if it's Ake, you can find that pass. And even if it means just a little dink over the midfield, it's just the fact that they create that space and they're always available for the ball. I mean, there was something that I saw recently on social media about Pep saying that, that's the one thing that he hates is when players don't want the football. And this team is awash with every single player wanting the football all the time. And it is great to see. I mean, I've played in games in the past where players have hid. And it's nothing worse than that. When they're not having a good time and they don't want the football, you almost feel like you're a man down. Well, because there's so many players that want the ball at City, it almost feels like you've got an extra man, never mind. The fact that we do keep the ball so very well. And I find myself, and then I stop myself at the same time, is because we are so good that when there is a stray pass, you become somewhat overcritical. And we kind of remember that one thing, don't we? We're absolutely superb. It's like watching FIFA sometimes, and yet one mistake, like Ilkay's pass, the square pass in the start of the second half, I think it was, and he put them in. There was one other occasion with somebody else, and you find yourself being overly critical, and you got to stop and think, hang on a minute, it's so glaring because it's so rare, isn't it?
That is weird what you just said there, Lake, about FIFA. And I giggled because my lad Adam and his 2 mates were watching it in here today. And at one point, that stray pass, I went, it's pressed the circle button instead of X. And they both burst out laughing. Sophia to say that, it's like he was here.
Yeah, for me, it was when you're saying about that, the one I noticed was the Cancelo one early on in the game, when he passed it back and it caused a lot of problems. But yeah, you're right. We do. There's not often it happens. So when it does happen, but the thing is, we play such tight spaces that when it does happen, it can actually cause a lot of problems. But luckily, the defence stood, firm today, and we did all right.
Yeah, and Marie, what also pleased me today is Grealish really got into the game as well, didn't he? As the game went on, he initially he was more or less like passing it sideways and back, but he started going for the jugular a little bit, and I think it's crucial for him to carry on doing that, throughout the season, because
I think it is because the worst thing he can do is keep stopping himself and passing back. He's got the ability and the skill to get past anybody. And that's what he needs to try and do, because he's desperate to build up the playing relationship with Haaland. And I think by doing that, you know, we'll see even more and better things to come.
Here's one for you, like Anne Marie, and we always have a laugh and a joke with her because she doesn't rate Mahrez in any way, shape, or form. I think there's no better player in Europe, possibly even world football, who's got that first touch, the way he brings a ball down. Yeah, and I think he's going to be Haaland's dream this season. Once because one thing he's good at is finding players. What he's not used to at the moment, well, since he's been at City, is that big centre forward like he had when he was playing with Vardy at Leicester.
Certainly, there are the players that we all kind of warm to, or players that can become that whipping post, for whatever reason. And let's be honest, a few seasons ago, Ilkay was that man. And so we've seen those players, Raheem Sterling, for some people, could not do right for wrong, and we know the fact that he has been a great servant for us, Raheem. Again, he did miss chances and, but at the same time, he kept going. He was always in there. And I find it hard on reflection to be overly critical of any real City player. Now, with regard to Riyad Mahrez, he's got a first touch that's just unbelievable. And the fact that he can go inside and outside, I think Anne-Marie probably, and one or two of my pals will kind of say this, is that he can be physically dominated. So, if that can happen, but let's be honest, there are players that can get dominated by a Van Dijk, or I wouldn't say
He doesn't
Maguire,
track back, Paul.
Pardon?
He's not one. He doesn't track back, not the way Grealish does or Foden does.
Yeah. But again, Anne-Marie, the sort of flip side is that as good as Jack Grealish is, he has to work on his final ball.
Of course he does.
That's the one part to his game. And so, if we were to look at every single player, we could probably identify, a criticism, even of Kevin De Bruyne. Though if you do say anything, I will fight you over that. But
we're safe on that one.
But there are elements to it, and that is something that Riyad Mahrez, and you see him at times where Pep will be having a go at him, saying, "Come on, switching off." But again, it's that X factor, and when you've got players like Riyad, the one thing that I saw today, whether you noticed it, but I think Phillips was a bit of a rabbit caught in the headlights for that five or so minutes. I just thought that he passed it a couple of times. Then he thought, should I be jogging over? Should I be? I think he's just finding himself. He's one of those players that I think could be, really, really good acquisition, because it's like looking at Nigel de Jong, and then you go from Yaya Toure, and obviously Yaya offered so much more going forward as well. But Phillips can be that player, can be solid, and he can be that six. He could be that fulcrum, and he could take the pressure off Rodri. And as Anne-Marie said before, Rodri today was unplayable. I thought he was absolutely
Busquets like, wasn't it? With Calvin Phillips as well. He must be a little bit ballsy to take that number 4 shirt. After Company having it and so successful, for so many years.
Yeah, well, it is a fair point. There are quite a few numbers that you're thinking, you get a bit of a shiver down your spine when you think about wearing a particular number. And we can go through it, even with David Silva. I think there's players like that, we're thinking, I'm not going to touch that shirt. But again, in coming back to that point around having someone like a Riyad Mahrez on the bench. Phil Foden is so pliable. He can play anywhere on the pitch and keep the football. And what I love, Marie, is the fact that it's like when Aguero had to step his game up to be able to do that more off of the ball work. And perhaps this season, because of the standards that have been raised again, and because of the expectations, maybe that's something that he might have to add to his game. But I suppose in his favour is the fact that if he's backed up by Kyle Walker or by Cancelo, they usually are high up the pitch anyway. So if he gives the ball away, there's someone within, say, a 15-yard kind of boundary that can close that next ball down. But again, we are nitpicking because these players are so good, aren't they?
Yeah. And Pep, as we know, Pep's no fool either. And for him to offer him a new contract as well at that age, it's apart from Fernandinho, it's very it's Pep unlike, to do that with players, at 31 years of age. So I think that speaks volumes. What what a great player to, whether it's to bring off the bench and stuff like that. Going back to Calvin Phillips as well, like I think he needs a start rather than come off the bench, for say 5 or 10 minutes. I'm sure Pep will do that, at sometime soon, because he's not had a great deal of football as well. Even Haaland, up until the Charity Shield, he'd had less than 40 minutes football in 3 months, and it doesn't matter whether they're athletes, how they train. As you know, you can't beat match practice, to get yourself up to speed.
Yeah, I mean, certainly watching the guys in training, the tempo that I've seen being set when I have watched training has been ridiculous. And like you say, in terms of recognising, where he will fit into this team and what he needs to do, what the expectations are, there's no better man-to-man coach than Pep Guardiola in that regard. I think, like you say, some players aren't particularly accustomed or comfortable with coming off of the bench. I always remember watching Julian Lescott. He was a great servant for us, but if he didn't start, and he struggled to get into the rhythm of games.
Yeah.
And he always felt that, there are players like that. I'm talking years and years ago now with Andy Hill.
Yeah.
Andy Hill was the same.
Yeah.
If he started the game, he was pretty consistent, 6, 7 out of 10 week in, week out. But if he came off of the bench, like 1 or 2 players do struggle. I think with Phillips as well, it's the fact that, there'll be an expectation of him to yes, win the ball back, but actually to use the ball and to use the ball intelligently, and to recognise the types of runs and the even his body position when he's receiving the ball, and that combination play. If you watch how many times Phil Foden gets the ball, or it's Riyad Mahrez on this right hand side, they'll control it. Yes, they can always step outside, or they can step in and put someone down the channel. What you find is, there's a ball that they'll pass across their body and go and get the next one, and that then creates space in between the centre half and the fullback, because that fullback's got a stick or twist.
Yeah.
Does he go and close that one down, or does he stand in that space? And he's not mobile, he's standing still. So what the intelligence of our play is the fact that we're passing and moving. And as Anne-Marie said before, and you've got someone like Haaland who can just turn the speed on like that, if he can make sure that he times his run. You often think that if someone's 6'4", 6'5", it'll take them about 4 or 5 strides to get into that. He doesn't need that, does he? He was absolutely electric, and it's so exciting, because what you feel like is that as good and as quick as Raheem was, his low centre of gravity, and he was horrible to play against Raheem, by the way. But okay, he may not have jinked past you, but his speed off of the mark was ridiculous.
Would he have scored that 1-on-1? What Haaland put away today? Would Raheem have scored that?
There you go, and that's it. That's what I said to you, is at that next level, because not only is he a threat area.
Yeah, and he'd have missed the penalty as well.
Well,
Anne-Marie.
I'm not going to go there, because there's been quite a few players been missing penalties in a City shirt, so we can't just single out.
Riyad Mahrez.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
Hey, De Bruyne has missed a few. De Bruyne has missed a few in his time. So has Gab Jesus. What, John? Regarding the left back position, as it was City right to walk away, do you think? But not paying that money for Cucurella.
Definitely wasn't worth it all day long. I said the maximum that we should go to would be 40, and Chelsea, we're what, 62 million they paid? No.
Yeah.
1 season in the Prem, not even Champions League, anything like that. And that's a big risk, and for £62 million, nowhere near.
But let's not forget, John. Right? There's been a lot of criticism of Brighton. Always only been with them a year, and they're asking that. That's their prerogative. If Brighton think
of course
that
it is.
player is worth that money, they are fully within their rights to ask that fee.
He obviously was to Chelsea, but not to us, because we're not stupid like that. We've come to learn that with players that that try and basically up the prices too much, and we just won't play it. And eventually, the other teams will learn that we will not be taken for ransom.
But Lakey, that's what we used to do, didn't we? When we were sort of like fast tracking ourselves, we used to pay over the odds, for players, and all of a sudden it's like that. Hang on, we don't need to do that now, and we're getting some good publicity. To be fair, I've seen in the media some quite good publicity that something we've walked away. That is the thing to do.
Yeah, there is an argument to say that, but also it also begs the question: then would you have let Zinchenko go?
No.
If you think
No.
about having one player.
No.
Who's not a natural left back. I mean, say Cancelo as a bit like Phil could play anywhere, but I don't like Ake playing at left back.
No, I don't.
I don't feel that he has that rhythm, that awareness and that touch. I think he's been superb when he's played, and he has become more and more solid. He's great to start or to have cover. If you've got Emmerich and Diaz and John Stones, obviously, John Stones playing right back. He can do that and probably more comfortable than Ake, but I still don't like him playing there either.
No.
So if you think about it, it's that as much as maybe they price themselves out of that one, we still do need to have someone to come in there and someone that's going to be able to hit the ground running. If God forbid Cancelo was to get injured, then it's a case of you kind of lose that rhythm, don't we? We'll still be excellent, but if Pep wants to keep going and start as we mean to go on and continue in the same vein, because as we know, there's going to be teams now that are going to have a template and going to see how Fulham played against Liverpool. And okay, they did tire in moments, and they did create chances, Liverpool, as they will always do against every team they play against. You are going to see more and more teams that are going to try and set up against City, and obviously that kind of physical presence. They're going to try and stifle us. What that will look like as a game to watch might not be that pleasant. And people were saying, I saw one of the comments saying that the game was a little bit dull at times today because West Ham just stood off of us and didn't try and press and didn't try and commit. But when you're going away and it's tight ground and you're Brentford and Fulham's of this world, it's going to be tough. But we have got so many more strings to our bow now. I mean, as Anne-Marie highlighted, that's someone that you recognise the pace of Haaland. Then you've also got Phil Foden can play as a 6 and 8, as a 10. He plays in wide areas. You've obviously got Jack Grealish. Blimey, the midfield is so strong, isn't it?
The list goes on, doesn't it?
It does.
The way we interchange, in different positions. But I agree, Cancelo is not a fullback. We do need an established fullback. Whether it's too early for Wilson Esbrand, don't know. Only time will tell. But I'm sure Pepper's got his alternative to Cucurella. Here's one for you, like what a mate of mine, Mike, threw at me last season. And to this day, it still makes me think. Diaz and Stones partnership. He reckons Diaz needs Stones more than Stones needs Diaz. In a way of, because if you notice, and it does make me think, because Diaz, when he's playing left of the centre backs, always seems to be more dominant when Stones is at the right of him.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that? So I can throw it at Michael.
It's probably an interesting one in terms of the partnership, the rhythm that they have, and that kind of almost becomes intuitive. That kind of knowing exactly when that player will perhaps step in and being comfortable in doing that. Yeah, and maybe John takes the pressure off of Diaz because he is so good at stepping in and finding those passes. As I mentioned to you before, when Kev or Ilkay or whoever steps into those wide areas of pockets where you're thinking, do I go? If I go and close that one down, then there's going to be space to lift into Haaland and play from there and play off of him. So they'll be reticent to be pulled out. And as a consequence, that pass will be on. John could find that. John's really good at that. I don't know about you guys. I mean, I can see that there is a natural kind of relationship that you will build with players. You can see that Phil Foden and Kevin De Bruyne have got that relationship. I always feel, probably selfishly in this regard, is that I always like to have, if I've got a choice of a left-footed, left-sided centre half, as an Emmerich Laporte or an Ake, I feel comfortable with that, because from that position there, the ball goes out in a much smoother way. It doesn't feel like if you look at Diaz when he controls the ball, maybe his first touch is back onto his right foot, and therefore it limits that way to open your hips out, open your body out,
Yeah.
because then you can play in, you can play wide, you can play through. Whereas if you come back onto your right, then you're going to have to come back out to John. So there is a reliance there on that right-sided player. So perhaps there may be a little bit of that in there too. So it's just a thought for you.
Yeah, it is one as well. What is your, obviously through the academy, what's a successful academy? For me, obviously we want to see these young lads come through and break through like the Fodens, etc., the Cole Palmers. But when you look at people like Tosin yesterday and some of the players what are making a decent living, you know, I consider that a successful academy, because at the end of the day, it's the players, you know, well-being. If we can nurture somebody and they don't make it with us and they go on to have a great career, I consider that a great success and, you know, and a great academy.
Absolutely. You look at the players that have come through City's academy. I mean, across the world, you know, especially, you know, across Europe, and we do know how hard it is to get into City's team and to stay there. That just shows you how good, you know, Phil Foden is. I mean, Taylor Howard-Bellis and Tommy Doyle as two examples of players that are very, very good. And, you know, will they come into City's side? Who knows? You know, and yet they are top professionals and excellent footballers. You're probably going to think that perhaps Taylor will have maybe more of a chance if he has a successful experience at Burnley. And let's be honest, under the stewardship of Vincent Kompany, there's no one better for him. Would be far more comfortable with him being there.
And you know the football will be played right, and the lads will be looked after. Exactly,
and that's it. But when I look at the academy system and I look at our academy in particular, it's always been levelled at City players, is that because City's style of play and philosophy is so specific that players will struggle to play elsewhere. I actually think that's a nonsense, because I feel that if you come through City's academy, then you are blessed with having the experience of knowing how to handle the football in any area of the football pitch. And if you can handle the football, you know, with a football intelligence, no matter where that's at, you will be able to play anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And you know, you look at the coaching, they've got so many good coaches. I mean, Jason Woodcock, you know, his knowledge of our philosophy is in such detail. He's able to, you know, manage the expectations of the coaches. They've got two head of coaches there, and you know, one with the younger players, one with the 15s to 21s, because that's changed 23 to 21s now. So they've got great coaches. They've got, you know, a standard, an attitude, an expectation, and at the same time, players are allowed to fail. That's where you learn. You know, City might lose 2-3 games in a whole season, but probably learn more in those games. And then when they go out on loan or they play in the, you know, it was called the Checker Trade Trophy, or it's the leasing.com or whatever it's called these days. But those are the experiences that our players will have. And the fact they've been through our academy and had that start in their footballing life, you know, there's so many options open to them. And there are players, you know, that will still come back and maybe be on City's radar in 5-6 years' time. So, you know, it's really an exciting opportunity. You have to be good to be able to cross that white line. You know, it's not a blue carpet, because there comes a point where, you can be looked after in every way you possibly can with the best coaching. You've got to have it within yourself to do that. You've still got to be able to do it. Yeah. And if you look at, you know, the humility of players like Tommy Doyle, who's been out on loan, you know, we've got players that have been out on loan at Callum Doyle over at Sunderland. You know, there's no airs and graces. No, I'm not going to play there. There's none of that attitude. It's about, okay, what's best for me? What's my next step? And can I come back and break into our first team? And, you know, with the support, the guidance, and, you know, the all-round holistic care that our players have, yes, at City, but across the game, you know, everyone's got an opportunity to be able to succeed in life. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I'm a little bit conscious that you've got friends coming round, pal. So, Anne-Marie or John, have you got anything for Lakey?
Yeah, I've got a question actually. How much, when you was in your prime, would you have liked to have been trained under Pep?
Oh, it would have been a dream, because like I say, we never really had that coaching, believe it or not. The first time we were trained and we were marshaled into, this is what, set pieces to be rigid here, but there was no real coaching around, when you receive a ball, these are the passes you're looking for, this is the combination play, this is in possession, out of possession. All we did really was be organised, and then at set pieces for and against. So there's so much more that I feel I could have learnt, under someone like a Pep Guardiola. And at the same time, the standards that have been set, John, across the whole training environment mean that, you raise your standards. Everyone makes you better as a consequence. And it's an excitement to come into training every day. I've seen the training, I've seen what it's like. And, the tempo is fantastic. When Andy mentioned before about having to sort of, back in my day, you had to play in the reserves to get your match fitness, because the tempo is set so high in the training now. You don't need that. And they will play 60 minutes and 40 minutes and 30-minute pockets here, and they will rotate it, and they will work on certain areas of game in and out possession. But, it's incredible to watch. And to see the ball fizz around in the touch and the awareness and the confidence, it's breathtaking. And as someone that I thought as though I could handle the football, I still am in awe when I watch some of the guys play. And Anne-Marie, I know he's not one of your favourites, but what a first touch Riyad Mahrez has got. Oh my God. It is. He's probably got the best first touch in world football. But I know there are other areas to his game that he needs to improve upon. And whether he's 21 or 35, you never stop learning. And there's always something you can add to your game. And Riyad Mahrez can certainly add to his game out of possession. So I agree with you on that.
I think he could potentially have his best season for City with Haaland up there, because of and I know deep down Anne-Marie really, really loves him, don't you, Anne-Marie? Anything for Lakey?
We know she does. We've got the video evidence.
Yeah.
I've only got one person on here that I love tonight, and that's Mr. Lake himself. It was always a joy to watch you play, Paul.
Thank you. Very kind of you.
Yeah,
she
couldn't wait for tonight. She couldn't wait for tonight,
made me
Lakey.
cry. I felt
all I can
so
say
much
is that,
when I read your book.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
I've got the audio version. It's fantastic.
Oh, do you know something? That was the most nerve-wracking thing I probably ever had to do. Because I was in a booth, and I had, in the booth to my right was Julian Clary doing his audio book. And to my left, there was an actor from Casualty doing an audio book as well. And you had to sort of, get it nailed in two days to do it. And, if it wasn't right, they'd say, cut, do that one again. So there was a lot of pressure to do an audio book.
I tell you what, I'm glad they didn't get your voice and Julian Clary's voice mixed up on the books, mate. that would have been a bestseller.
He makes more sense than me, so it's probably fine.
How many years ago now was it, the book, when you...
2012.
Wow, 10 years?
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember that literally like it was yesterday.
I was waiting for the Alan Partridge pulp, but we're still not been told it's going to be pulped yet. We're still being told it's still for sale. So, there is going to come a point where we can actually, buy copies, and then I'll be handing them out to supporters clubs, and I'll go, But again, it's just a pleasure to be able to do that, and having my wife, who happens to be, ghostwriter,
she's a legend as well, by the way, on Twitter.
I was just going to say, don't forget Jo, because she was instrumental in like you say, the writing of that, wasn't she? And what a wonderful woman you've got there, buddy. She is.
Thank you. Yeah. I am her biggest fan, so you're absolutely right there.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Right. Anything else for Lakey? Because he's a busy man.
Yep, that's fine. Not a problem.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Lakey, for coming on. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on, and hopefully, when you've got a bit more time, we'll get you on later on in the season.
Yeah, no worries, Andy. Thank you very much, mate.
Okay.
Nice to speak to you, John. Nice to speak to you, Anne-Marie.
You too.
You too, Paul.
Cheers,
Thanks.
guys. See you in a bit. Bye-bye.